Welcome to another sparkling edition of Plank of the Week. It's the second week of the year and we are still in a massive lockdown. However, I have managed to coax out of their homes Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan, the Talk Radio's finest at the weekends and other times as well, and Dawn Neesom, not just Talk Radio's finest, but also, superstar of all sorts of media. Now, last week, the first one of the year was a bit predictable. I think today we're going to have a few different names, right? Because at the end of the day, we can't just keep doing the same people like Sadiq Khan, Harry and Meghan, Boris Johnson. So I'm going to ask you, Kevin, to kick us off. Who's your first plank?
Angela Merkel, the German leader.
Yes.
Who has suddenly taken to calling the coronavirus the British virus. She was part of the caucus who accused Donald Trump of being racist for calling it the Chinese virus.
Yes.
Or Kung Flu.
Yes.
My particular favourite.
Yeah, that was good.
It is a Chinese virus, so I don't know why that was supposed to be racist. But Angela has now started calling it the British virus because of the new variant that allegedly started here.
I thought it started in South Africa.
They don't think it did start. Well, they don't know where it started. But we have the best tracing system to work out what viruses are and what their strength are. So we were able, we do, so about the best in the world.
That's amazing.
So we were the first to identify it, and because of that, we get labelled by Angela with the British virus. Now, why is she calling it the British virus? Of course, it's for political expediency. First of all, she's making a complete mess of the COVID crisis in Germany.
Whereas at the beginning, of course, Germany was the superstar.
Well, they always say
they were doing so well. They were so efficient.
Germany, with its ruthless efficiency, will be very good. Well, it hasn't been.
Not like that's in any way a stereotype that these lefties come out with all the time.
Racist.
Yeah, parts of Germany, they are piling up the coffins in the street to handle the body. So Angela is making a complete screw up of the COVID crisis. Their vaccination programme compared with ours is useless. They've only managed about 670,000 in 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, the whole EU is pretty useless.
Yeah. And here's the point. Here's the real thing, is the EU, which her beloved EU, is on the point of doing a big trade deal with China. They don't want to offend China by in any way implying that this virus has got anything to do with the darling Chinese.
Oh, yeah, nothing to do with them at all.
It's the British. It's the British. So for that, Angela, and for your uselessness in causing the migrant crisis, for your uselessness in being absolutely hopeless at dealing with the COVID crisis, for your general uselessness, actually, you are Plank of the Week.
I think that's absolutely fair.
It's not bad. Yeah, I haven't heard of calling it the British virus yet. That's quite impressive, really.
There have been a couple of people calling it that, actually, interestingly enough.
Well, just because we're at the forefront of actually analysing the virus and working out the mutations.
I mean, it's not like we've been crunching down any pangolin.
Do you know what?
How was it Boris described it? Pangolin sort of grating its...
grinding its pangolins in order to make your sex life better, which is apparently why they take
They're little like anteaters.
But do you want to know something? Do you want to know something that's strange? Parallel with the Spanish flu epidemic. Spanish flu began on a farm, a chicken farm in Wyoming.
Right.
It was first identified when it was halfway around the world in Spain.
Right.
The Spanish, in fact, there was a press blank out. All media across the world decided not to write about it because the world was so depressed after World War I anyway.
Right.
The Spanish broke the rules and started saying, we've got this flu.
Right.
And that's so it became known as the Spanish flu. They didn't start it.
We've also had Asian
Angela's
flu.
Trying to do a Spanish flu on us.
We've also had Asian flu, haven't we? I mean, I've heard of Asian flu.
Yes.
We've had bird flu.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what's wrong with calling it
I think
Chinese
we should kick back, fight back at Angela, because they've got the coronavirus in Germany. Why don't we just call it the German flu?
Yeah, well, we could do.
German measles. Well, we've got German measles.
German measles, although you have to call that rubella now, I think. That's probably why they changed the name, right?
I don't. German measles.
What a surprise.
Extremely German, those measles are.
Listen, you're going to be accused not only of being a massive racist, but a xenophobic maniac.
Oh, that'll make a big change for me.
Last week you were attacked by all these Doctor Who fans for having a go at old what's her face? What was her name?
Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker. I think I knew what I was doing.
I mean, why didn't you know that the Nazis were the Daleks? Why didn't you know that?
Because I don't care about that sort of thing and don't spend my time thinking about Doctor Who. And also, I have read up about it. It's a very moot point that the Daleks are based on the Nazis. It's just some sort sort of interpretation by all those little geeks who love Doctor Who. So here I go again. I'm going to be in trouble again.
So yeah, but not that he cares, but he read up about it.
Yeah.
Well, afterwards. Well,
You know what I found when I
that
was...
doesn't make any sense, Dawn.
You know
It
what I
makes sense.
found?
You know, I get accused of this. I look up at that.
I found at the
What do you mean?
weekend...
Well, I don't understand the trail of your argument there. I get accused of being stupid for not knowing that Daleks are Nazis, so I look into it. You think that's a really strange thing to do?
Yes, you're supposed to do it. It's like
Why?
it's
Why
like
is that a strange thing to do?
It's like I once sent to Pippa Crerar, you know, your alma mater, Daily Mirror political editor, right? Who, in the wake of the old Dominic Cummings escapade up in Barnard Castle, said the police, she at one point put a tweet out saying the police will now be investigating this to see what the true facts of the story are. To which I said, well, in the old days, call me old-fashioned, we used to do that before we published the story.
Yeah.
Ouch.
I thought you were supposed to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Never mind. Anyway, Dawn, who's your first nominee?
Yeah, it's going to be the female version
I thought
this
it was
week,
gonna
isn't
be
it?
Kevin the way you were going on
I'm going to go notebook old school.
Mine's Dawn Neeson.
Shut up,
Being
Kevin.
stupid about Daleks.
What? I like Daleks. Right. Any case,
They're Nazis.
Yeah, and you know
Apparently.
that because you looked into it. Being
Yes.
right. Any case, I'm going to do Madonna.
Yes.
Because Madonna, remember the first lockdown, the bathtub full of
bathtub,
rose
oh God,
petals
yes, I'd forgotten about
in the
that.
multi-million-pound house,
Yes.
saying the thing about COVID, it's the great equaliser. We're all in this together.
Because she
rich
claims to
and
have had
poor.
it, didn't she?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, she's had it just as she was going on the Black Lives Matter march, I think. Any case, while we're all in this together and locked down in our homes, Madonna decided to travel 11,700 miles in 3 weeks over Christmas and New Year as a getaway. She went to 5 separate countries,
What?
including the UK,
Right.
Egypt, Malawi, Kenya,
She came here?
America. Came here to pick her son up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did she quarantine for 14 days?
No, well, evidently, we have this ruling now that high-worth individuals
Oh, yeah.
can do what you want. So if
Okay.
you're rich and you're famous,
Oh,
you
yes,
can
I
do what
remember
you
when
want.
they brought this in, but I didn't know that she'd actually taken advantage of that.
Well, evidently
private
she has.
jet thing,
It was
isn't
a
it?
private jet, absolutely, yeah. So she was she's a high value business traveller. She had a private jet. She managed to dodge all the quarantine rules. So despite lecturing,
Does that mean you can get as much duty-free as you like as well?
well, quite clearly, but she had I think 4 of her kids with her, possibly 5 if you
Right.
include her toy boy boyfriend,
Yes.
who's about 12. So she was jetting around the world, having a lovely time over Christmas and New Year, and saying, "Oh, it's a great equaliser. We're all in it together. Stay strong."
Yes.
And it's like, yeah,
it's
okay.
very sort of Harry and Meghan of her, isn't it?
It is. There's a slight amount of hypocrisy there.
Yes, just a
So-
little bit.
The super spreader, the materially dangerous girl.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Borderline is another one you
I
could
mean-
go with. Well, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah,
mean, you can
it's-
understand people being, if they're able to, get on a private jet, fly to some beautiful, you know, paradise like, I don't know, the Maldives or something, and take your family and just have a nice holiday and then fly back. But to go to 5
She was
different
jet-setting.
countries.
She came over
That's
here to pick
ridiculous.
Rocco up, her son with Guy Ritchie, isn't it?
Yes.
He's 20 years old. So she came over to
Is he
pick him
20?
up,
Blimey.
took him round as well, and then dumped him back off. And whether he quarantined or not, or does he qualify as a high worth individual?
Well, this is
I
the
mean,
thing.
who knows?
This is the trouble, isn't it? Because the rules are so weird. You know, does the son of a high worth individual mean that you get to disappear off into the ether as well? Who the hell knows?
But it's you know, we're not all in this together. It's one law for them
Yeah.
and one law for the rest of us that are locked down in grey, miserable UK, all of us doing our bit.
Yeah, staring at the walls,
Mm-hmm.
wondering when we're going to be able to go anywhere. You know,
Yeah,
but-
these celebrities, though, you know, by all means go off on your luxury holidays. But if you had any self-awareness as a celebrity, but you would not get yourself pictured. You would
No.
not, they make a point of, here's me on the beach in my
Yeah, yeah.
bikini.
Yeah, but-
It's a really bad look.
I
you
think
know-
it's because they're all such narcissists, though.
Yeah.
They need to
Right.
be in
They
the
need to
public
be
eye, don't
talked
they?
about. They
this
need
is
to be
even-
looked at.
This is even better,
absolutely.
Kev. With Madonna, she actually took a private photographer with her to take official pictures. I mean, it's not like she's trying to keep quiet about it, but hey, you know, we're
No,
all in this
that's a
together.
very
Great
good plank, mate.
equaliser.
I think you might have the winner there, you know, because I'm not sure anybody's going to beat that.
Well, take some doing.
We shall see. My first nomination is going to be Twitter. Not because I want them to ban me, but because they banned loads of other people. Apparently they've banned 70,000 accounts, which they've decided are in some way either Trump supporting or bots, and nobody's really sure because they won't tell anyone, because like all social media companies, they don't ever say how they operate. Having banned Donald Trump from Twitter, they were the first kind of organisation of social media to ban the President of the United States, which in and of itself is ludicrous, right, to me. The fact that they were questioning what he was tweeting out, the fact that they were fact-checking what the President of the United States was saying, the Ayatollah Khomeini has still got an account with Twitter.
Yeah, and
right?
have you seen some of the stuff he tweets
Yeah.
about Israel?
Yeah.
I mean, literally, this country doesn't need to exist.
This is a guy who believes.
Does he use emojis?
He's basically believed. This is a guy that believes.
Palm trees.
Yeah, he does
wine
he does the gif with the old nuclear bomb going off. You know, I mean, this is a guy who believes in wiping Israel off the face of the earth. Right? Donald Trump has been accused of inciting violence. What do you think this guy's doing? Right? Now, it gets worse, though, because yesterday I could barely believe my eyes. I thought it was a parody account. But there's something called Twitter Public Policy, which is one of their accounts, OK? And here's what they wrote. Ahead of the Ugandan election, we're hearing reports that internet service providers are being ordered to block social media and messaging apps. We strongly condemn internet shutdowns. They are hugely harmful, violate basic human rights and the principles of the open internet. Now, talk about hypocrisy. These are the same people that have just banned everybody who happens to be right-wing and who have taken away from people like me 500 followers. Now, it doesn't bother me that 500 followers have disappeared, but I find it slightly sinister.
It is sinister,
and slightly
though,
murky.
isn't it? I mean, but they have so much information on everybody as well, these companies.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to be accountable to anybody.
They don't. This is it. I mean, I learned this many, many years ago when I first did The Independent Republic of Mike Graham as a show on Talk Sport. It was an overnight show. It had a page on Facebook. One day, suddenly, the page just vanished. And it had become so sort of busy. And there were some stupid people on there who would argue with each other, but they would basically just have rows on a kind of a common thread. But one day it just disappeared. Could I find out what had happened? No. There wasn't anyone to call. There wasn't anyone you could even email. There was no justification for it. And Facebook just do whatever they like. And then apparently they're going to fact check what people like me do. I don't think so.
It's very
So, I mean, I could have done the whole of social media, but I think for today, especially because of the Ugandan situation, which used to mean something else, didn't it, in the old days, in private eye, I just think it's ridiculous. So Twitter, number one for me. Kevin?
Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House in America, who has responded to President Trump's antics last week by trying to impeach him. He will have to stand trial, of course, in the Senate after he's left office and could be impeached successfully found guilty of the charges, which is that he incited violence and insurrection on the Capitol building, the home of American democracy. If he's found guilty of that, I mean, he'll be in a world of trouble. She's doing that purely for political expediency, purely to advantage the Democrats over the Republicans as Joe Biden's administration starts. She wants to demonize Trump and therefore demonize the Republicans. She's also very spitefully trying to kick her mortal enemy while he's down.
I think it's very childish.
The sensible thing would have been to just say, well, there's only 10 more days now. There's 10
just
more
let
days
him go,
to
yeah.
Just
well,
let
it's
him
a week, isn't it? It's a week today,
they say, oh, he
Wednesday.
could press the nuclear button. No, he can't. No one's going to do anything Donald Trump says until he leaves office. So they should have quietly let his presidency play out. He disappears. He's never going to be a candidate at the next election.
Presumably, if he's not going to the inauguration, because he says he's not going, which is a week today, as you say, presumably he sneaks away on Tuesday, does he? So it's not even a week.
He was never going to cause any harm.
I mean, I suppose that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because if you're the President of the United States and you want to slip away to Mar-a-Lago, it's quite difficult, isn't it? I mean, he's going to do sort of, Will Carling style, smuggle himself out in the boot of the car. Get into the boost, get into the beast and be driven away.
As Kevin said, it's adding more fuel to this fire, isn't it? Just let him go, just move on now and start afresh.
Yeah, America's a tinderbox right now, as you saw last week.
They really shouldn't be stoking that fire.
And the Democrats are putting a match to that tinderbox.
Also, isn't Nancy Pelosi the woman who did two things in the last year? One, I think I'm right in saying she gave an interview in her house in which it was shown that she had some kind of ridiculously expensive fridge that cost something like 20 grand or something. Yeah. And she also, did she not sneak off?
She got a haircut.
And she got illegally. A haircut illegally when everyone was supposed to be locked down.
She probably got another ton of lacquer applied to it.
Well, listen, you wouldn't want to light a fag anywhere.
The environment is not safe while Nancy is using that amount of hair lacquer.
No, exactly right. Dawn, who's your second?
Right, okay, well this is going to be a magazine. It's going to be Cosmopolitan magazine, which is out on sale this month.
I used to read Cosmopolitan magazine when I was a young lad.
It's
learned a lot.
It's a good magazine.
For the pictures?
Yeah. No, I used to read their sex advice column.
The sex advice column. Did you listen?
Everybody.
Did you
should
take
still
any
read
notice
it,
of
mate.
I did, yeah.
Right,
it's
okay.
not quite an
You should have a
eye-opener
read
when
of
I
it
was
again.
about- I was about 14. I used to read
This
in the
time,
doctors.
take the advice.
Any case, this time Cosmopolitan have done This Is Healthy. They have done a feature on basically glamorising obesity.
Yes.
It is using plus size models, as we call them now,
Yes.
and saying fit bodies come in all shapes and sizes. Now this basically is true. Fit bodies do
That-
come.
up to
You
a
can
point,
be
yes.
fit, and
Yes.
you can be fit, and you can be
Fat.
larger.
Yes.
To be fat and fit.
You can be fat
Can
and
you?
fit.
Well,
however,
can you?
obesity, yes, you can. Obesity is a killer.
Yeah.
And there is no getting away from that. And the thing I find quite annoying about this particular cover is that they've done this cover to encourage sales of the magazine, obviously. However, they are promoting obesity. Now, 2/3 of adults in this country are obese, 20% of children in this country are obese. Not only
And most people who are fat don't really want to be fat either.
no, they don't, and I do believe that. And you look at all the celebrities like Adele, for example,
Yeah.
who, 1 minute it's like, oh, look at me, I'm proud of my curves.
Yeah, yeah.
The next she loses 7 stone, it's like, oh my God, I feel so fit and healthy. So it's wrong for them to promote it at this time of year, especially with COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, you are, I think 70% more likely to be hospitalised with COVID
Yeah.
if you're obese. You're more likely to die of it.
And
that
also,
is,
you couldn't get away with it in the other way, could you? Because then you remember when you were back in the days when you were in Fleet Street, there was this war on sort of anorexic models. 'Cause
Exactly.
for a long time they did
Yeah.
that sort of heroin chic.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had these models who looked like
Yeah.
they'd literally stopped shooting up in a gallery
Yeah.
and come out
See,
and posed.
this is the
and
thing.
you can't glamorise that.
No, you can't glamorise an anorexic look, and Cosmopolitan wouldn't do that. But by promoting obesity, we're worshipping at the cult of obesity, and if you dare say anything about it, it's fat shaming.
Yeah.
No, it's not fat shaming. People die.
Right.
Type 2 diabetes, heart disease, even some kinds of cancer now. And we are getting fatter as a nation, one of the fattest countries in Europe, and I just think it's irresponsible for them to encourage people to think that obesity is a good thing, because it never actually
No, I think
is.
you're absolutely right. And it is weird, isn't it, that, again, like everything else which you're supposed to agree with, if you disagree with it, you're some horrible
Well,
kind of
this is the
individual
whole-
who's making out that, there's something wrong with fat people. I mean, it's true to say, for example, when there was the debate about the BMI, is it the BMI?
Yeah.
That level, apparently, if you went and examined every member of the All Blacks rugby team, their BMI would be
Because
sky high
muscle is
because they've
heavier
got so
than fat.
much muscle on them. It's fine. They're obviously very fit men, but obviously my BMI is if it's the same as a member of the All Blacks.
You don't play for the All Blacks, do you?
I don't. No, and I don't think I'd even get a game. But and it would also be very painful.
You wouldn't be on
getting
the
hit
wing,
by
put it
one of
that
those
way.
guys. No, I certainly wouldn't be running. I'd just be standing there. But the point is that clearly this is why some of these measurements are not completely to be taken absolutely as read.
No, absolutely.
But I don't think there's any. It's not difficult to look at somebody and go, they don't look very healthy.
But and then the thing is, most people who do lose weight successfully have been done so because a loved one or a medical professional has said you do need to lose weight.
Yeah.
But you can't say that because that is fat
Yeah,
shaming.
I mean, listen, I'd love to
But
lose weight,
it's-
but the trouble is I'd have to give up drinking. And the problem for me is not so much the eating, it's the drinking. And I don't really want to give it up. Till such time as I do. I gave up smoking because I wanted to. If I eventually decide I'm going to lose some weight, I will because I want to.
It's your
and you have to do it that way.
It's your personal
Yeah.
choice. If you want to be overweight, then that's fine.
Exactly.
I'm not saying you shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, listen, I don't particularly want to be, though.
However, to promote it as a healthy body image is wrong.
It is, and you shouldn't be doing covers like that on Cosmopolitan. I mean, what happened to the days when they just used to put, what's the phrase, Cindy Crawford on the front and be done with it?
But I think
Fit, athletic.
I take Dawn's point entirely, but I do. It's probably a debate for another time. But I do worry about ordering people around. If you want to be fat, you can be fat.
Absolutely.
As far as I'm
I'm not
concerned.
saying you
Eat what you
shouldn't.
like.
Yeah.
It's none of the state's business. It's none of my
No.
business. It's none of anyone's business.
No.
Well,
I don't like this.
But this new
Nazism around
medical
fatness.
kind of, Nazism, if you want to call it that, is about, but we have to prevent the health service from getting overwhelmed.
Oh,
so
God,
you
don't
mustn't-
start that
You
again.
mustn't be unwell because then we'd have
Don't
to take you
make
into
the
hospital.
health service treat the unhealthy.
It does cost millions of pounds.
Well,
though.
as I've said,
Well,
it
you know,
does, but
yeah,
so
well,
does
we
lots of other
pay
things.
for it.
I'm not
We
suggesting
pay for it.
otherwise.
Loads of things cost
I'm
millions
not
of pounds.
suggesting otherwise.
Supporting poor people costs millions of pounds.
I'm
You wouldn't
not
suggest not
suggesting
doing it.
But the
otherwise-
people who are fat and who cost the NHS millions of pounds pay their taxes. That's the way
However,
it goes.
it's time we
wanna-
stopped tiptoeing around the obesity issue. We need
Yes.
to be honest about what it is.
Yeah,
and what
no,
it
I
does.
agree with you.
Yeah,
I do
well,
not
I say
disagree.
let people be fat and let people eat
Now,
what
one of
they
the things you can do, of course, if you wish to lose weight, is a bit of exercise. Okay. Now,
Yes.
imagine having to do that and then then finding yourself arrested by the police. So my next one, my second nominee, is the Derbyshire Police, who haven't exactly covered themselves in glory
They've got
during
previous.
this pandemic, because these are the same people that sent up a load of drones, if you remember, back in the first lockdown to catch people out.
Two
who'd
people walking their
walking
dogs in the
their
middle of nowhere.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere. Get down! Stop that! You know, I've just watched a video actually, and it's not, funnily enough, not the Derbyshire Police. It's some other COVID official stopping a bloke jogging, accusing him of breathing heavily in the open air. I mean, this is not what we want to see, right?
There was
Priti Patel.
the proposal in the middle of the last lockdown that if theatres were to reopen in musicals, they mustn't be able to sing because that would project too many germs.
Yeah.
Musicals
Well,
without songs.
But this was the advent of the music ban in Scotland, because even when the pubs were open, they weren't allowed to play any music
they couldn't sing.
because they were worried people might start singing or talking loudly to make sure they could be heard over the music. And you're going, what?
Oh, it's just
Really?
ludicrous.
Yeah, that's really going to stop the spread of the
It's
virus.
I
isn't
mean,
it?
unbelievable.
No
Anyway,
singing
so
in pubs, that'll do it.
yeah, I mean, obviously this refers to the two women, Jessica Allen and Eliza Moore. Now, I'm slightly perplexed by this story in a way, because it turns out, apparently, and you may know more about this than I do, that these two are somehow involved in some kind of reality TV show, which I didn't know about, and I've heard that said, and they certainly did brush
The
up
Only Way is
quite
Derby.
well. The only way is, yeah. The only way is
That's
Derby.
a ratings hit, isn't it?
Real
Don't see it
Housewives,
working.
Real Housewives of the Peak District. I mean, I don't know. Well, they've got them in Cheshire, why not? But anyway, so these two, right, drive to a reservoir separately, two separate cars.
And it's only 5 miles. It's
Right,
not like they've driven
5
across the
miles from
country.
their house. They pick up a cup of coffee on the way. They get out of the cars to be greeted by what can only be described as a sort of SWAT team of police officers, right, who have turned up. They both said, we thought there'd been a murder around the local area because there were so many cops, and they were expecting to be questioned about what they'd seen. Instead of which, they found themselves being handed a £200 fine and a public order offence piece of paper because they were walking and apparently carrying coffee constitutes
Which
having a
is
picnic.
a picnic.
So they might as well have had a picnic
It's
chocolate bar, I
ludicrous,
suppose.
isn't
away.
it?
But I'll tell you what they were very good at doing. They were very good at then getting themselves pictured doing it some more
Yes,
somehow.
yes.
So that's why I mean, with all of these stories, you have to slightly
I'm a
look
bit-
behind the curtain.
bit dubious
sometimes.
about these young
A
ladies,
little
I
bit
have to
dubious.
admit,
But
yeah.
nevertheless, Derbyshire Police fell hook,
they were
line, and
fined,
sinker for
you
it,
know.
because what they shouldn't have done was hand them a fine.
No.
That's proven, of course, by the fact that Matt Hancock said it was a good idea, and then they immediately rescinded
They've rescinded it, haven't they? And
yeah,
they've
yeah,
apologised.
they've
and
taken it
reverse
away, haven't they?
ferreted
Yeah.
on them. So Matt Hancock got it wrong. Yesterday, Priti Patel made it worse by appearing with one of the heads of the constabulary on the media briefing to say that, to basically threaten everybody that if you don't do what you're told, we'll just set the cops on you. You're kind of going, is this really what you want to be giving us as guidance? Is this really what you want to be
Yeah.
telling us?
There's a problem with all this, that each constabulary and Priti Patel, they're saying the rules have to be applied. It's up to the PCs on the ground, the coppers on the ground,
Yes.
to decide what action they should take. That's absolutely legally not true.
Of course it's not.
It should not. It isn't up to the PC
No,
on
of course
the ground.
not.
It is a matter of the law of the
Yeah.
land. It is not for
And
PCs.
also, they don't
to-
even know what the law of the land
Well,
is.
it is not for
this
police
is the
constables to
issue.
make a judgment.
No, it's not. No, it has to be. It's the law. But the problem is, there's law, there's government advice,
Yeah.
there's
There's
guidelines,
guidelines.
Right.
and then Priti Patel's going, no, it's crystal clear. Everyone knows what they're doing. And I'm going, well, quite clearly,
Actually, no.
they don't.
Well, Adam Wagner, who's a guy that's quite active on Twitter, who's a lawyer, he put out a thing yesterday saying that the guidance and the laws on what you can do and what you can't do have been changed 65 times
Yes.
since
Yeah.
last March.
Yeah.
Really?
So, I mean, and when people challenged him on it, he literally listed all the different things that have been changed. Because, I've said this on the radio, I'm supposed to be all over this. I'm supposed to know exactly what the rules are. I actually
You
don't
can't.
know what they are anymore.
Absolutely, no.
Because nobody tells you how far you can go.
Yeah.
And if you ask anyone how far you can go, they can't tell you.
Well, I mean, it's
Boris apparently can cycle 7 miles to the Olympic Park.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with that.
No.
He lives in London. That's fine.
7 miles on a bike is actually
7
quite
miles
local.
is probably nothing, isn't
Yeah.
it? Right? I mean, if I'm going to go and see my children because I'm in their bubble, number one, and also they are my kids, that's allowed. I can't go and see somebody else's kids. That's understandable. I can't go to anybody else's
Isn't
house.
confusing about the rules. None of them have worked. But surely we should be at least contemplating a different approach, because the approach so far has not worked.
No, and I think the vaccinations are supposed to do that, but we shall see.
That may help.
What's your third one, Kev?
My third one is the Doctor Who former
You're
writer.
going back down that road.
Russell
No,
T.
we're not allowed to say
Davis.
anything
No,
like-
no.
Not Russell T. Davis. For
Isn't he the guy that wrote Doctor Who?
conflating
Yeah.
for conflating Daleks with Nazis? No, not that. It is because he has written a new drama called It's a Sin.
Right.
It's about the AIDS, the scourge of HIV and AIDS in the 1980s and how that affected the gay community in Britain, which is fine. It's an interesting topic. But along the way, he has asserted that he believes that only gay actors can play gay characters. Now, lots of gay actors, my friend Christopher Biggins, for example, Simon Callow, lots of gay actors have come up, have stood up and said this is absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
Absolute nonsense.
Which it is.
It's called acting.
It's acting.
You know, and what Russell T. Davis says, and I get his argument, I just don't agree with it. He says, if I cast a heterosexual guy or woman to play a gay character, then they're going to be acting out what it's like to be gay. And he said, I don't think that's the point. He said, gay people, I want them to be criminals or drug addicts or vicars or whatever. I don't want them to be playing gays. I want them to be playing these characters. Well, fine. So give the part to a heterosexual actor if you think they're going to play the part better.
Right.
This nonsense that only disabled people can play disabled people is again an affront to the craft of acting.
Exactly.
And, I mean, I sort of.
I'd have more sympathy for him, and I haven't seen everything he said, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I'd have more sympathy if he said, "Look, you can't possibly know how it feels to be gay unless you are gay. So if you're going to play a gay man or a gay woman, it might be better if you know how that feels." However, what I would say to that is, you couldn't possibly know what it was like to be gay in the 80s when AIDS was around if you're only, in your 20s now, because it's a completely different experience. I mean, I remember living in New York in the 80s when AIDS was around, and it was horrific. It was absolutely horrific. And I had friends who worked with the gay community, and they would literally cook lunch for them every Sunday.
You should have been in West Hollywood
Well,
in
yeah.
LA.
Well,
They were
I mean,
dropping like
I was in the West
flies.
Village a couple of times, I can tell you that. And the thing is that, every week somebody wouldn't turn up because they died. I mean, that's how bad it was. It was horrible.
But I mean, the thing, as you say, Kevin, the point of acting is to
Play
be
different
something
characters,
else, to not be yourself in any way, shape, or form. And a great actor makes you really believe in their character. So that is what the point. I mean, how many great gay actors have there been playing really straight,
Exactly
heterosexual
right. Exactly.
characters?
So you're going to ban gay actors. If you're going to ban heterosexuals from playing gay characters, then you have to ban gay characters from playing heterosexuals, and that in the world of acting is going to cause a lot of problems.
Well,
It would,
Yeah.
as you can imagine.
And just as we're going down the road of colourblind casting, which I think is fantastic, if you're the best actor for the role, doesn't matter what colour your skin is, play that role. Fantastic. We're going down that now, and Bridgerton is it, which I think I'm not watching.
Yeah, I
but
haven't seen it, yeah.
That seems to be.
It's so rubbish. It's boring. So boring.
Well, it's a
It
period
probably is, but
drama, so that's the first reason
It's getting
to go
around
click.
the colourblind casting thing. The best person for the role is the best actor to do it, no matter what their sexuality is or what their colour is, without sounding too woke about it.
Well, there's a great story, isn't there, from Marathon Man, from Laurence Olivier when he was playing with Dustin Hoffman. And I don't know if you remember the film, but, Laurence Olivier plays this crazy Nazi dentist. Back to Nazis again.
Great film.
It's a great film, and it's actually
Is it safe?
Is it safe? Yeah, and it's. I can imagine it must be the worst torture of all time to have somebody, like boring into your filling. But
Right
at
in the
one
front
stage
seat.
or other, he's been in this kind of dentist chair and not sleeping, and he comes into work one day, Dustin Hoffman looking like death, looking awful, filthy, hair's all mangled, and Laurence Olivier says, "Dear boy, what have you been doing?" And he was like, "Oh, well, to get into character, I thought I'd spend the weekend on the streets." And he'd been literally sleeping on the streets of Manhattan in order to get himself into this role. And Laurence Olivier apparently looked at him and just went, "It's called acting, dear boy."
Yes.
It's called acting.
Yeah, exactly
I've
right,
been in the
isn't it?
4 seasons,
Exactly. So I think Russell T. Davis is just wrong, and
Also,
actors
it's been
must be able
said-
to play any character.
Oh,
Has
not
it not also
quite.
been said, because I've listened to a couple of conversations about this particular situation, that he wrote Queer as Folk,
Where he
which was a
cast-
great show.
And he cast 4 straight men.
where he
to
cast
play
straight
gay
men to
yeah.
play the gay, and that was a really very authenticated, in my view, anyway, sort of homage to gayness, wasn't it?
Yeah. To be fair to him, he says that he's come to change his mind for the reasons.
Suddenly
I
turned into the
explained.
South Bank
But he
show,
also-
this, hasn't it?
Yeah, but he also He said he's come to.
Where's Melvin Bragg?
Surely- tone a bit.
surely regrettable standpoint of Russell T Davies.
Method acting.
So he says he's changed his mind, which is fair enough.
Oh, has he?
Well, no, but he also says that his standpoint now is not woke. Oh, yes, it is.
Oh, it is,
Russell.
I'm afraid.
It very much
Yeah.
is. And for being woke and for being stupid about whether or
Yeah.
not actors
You
can
make
play
the planks
different
list.
characters from themselves, you are Plank of the Week.
Also, can I also say, anyone who puts their middle initial in their name, I have a problem with. Unless you're an American golfer, right? Russell T. Davis? How about just Russell Davis?
Yeah, but you don't know what it stands for, do you? Tool.
Tool.
Yeah,
There you go.
apparently.
There might have been another Russell.
There could have been
Davies.
another
There
T.
could have
I thought
been,
you were
yeah.
going to say there was another
Yeah.
word for the word T.
I think it sounds T for the Daleks. I think it has something to do with the Daleks.
Russell
Is
the-
it something to do with
Russell the Davis.
the Davis. Who's your third one, Dawn?
Right, my third one is we are going back to a bit of a woke one here, the statues again.
Oh, yes.
Again,
We haven't
it
had a
comes
statue
up-
for a while.
We know this is a new take on the statues as
okay.
well. I didn't think we could have a new take on it, but evidently we have. This is councillors in Exeter in Devon.
Yes.
Who have they've had an equality impact assessment undertaken.
Of course they have.
On a statue. I don't even know what that
They
is.
used to just collect the bins.
I know, exactly.
I mean, you know.
On a statue of General Sir Redvers Buller, which stands
Sounds
outside
right bounder.
Exeter University.
Yeah.
He did something big in South Africa several hundred years ago.
Yeah.
But any
Swine.
case, the main problem they have with this statue is not that he was a war hero and might have been a
Right.
bit sort of slavey, racist
Right.
type thing. You know,
It's not
the
charged with the Light Brigade
standard
or
one.
anything.
No.
Yeah.
But this one is the conversation is the views of women, transgender and non-binary people are captured in this because the statue is going to upset people who do not define themselves in binary gender terms.
So it's offensiveness. He's a bloke.
It's a bloke,
Right.
basically.
I was going to
You
ask
can't
if
have-
somebody
you
could.
can't
Which is
have a
not
statue
very
of a bloke.
sound.
I was going to ask if you could explain what that
Well,
means.
exactly.
What does
So
it mean?
either-
It's that he's a bloke, so
Yeah,
it offends
it's
non-binary people.
Now, most statues in this country are either
Nope.
a bloke
Don't
or
get
a
it.
woman.
Right.
Don't they?
So
Yeah.
a woman would be just as offensive.
Yeah, and so pretty much every statue
So any
in this
statue with a
country,
gender is
any
offensive.
statue with a gender.
What about an
is
animal
offensive.
statue? What about like if it was a bear or something?
Well, can you identify as a bear? I mean, is that?
Well, it depends what gender it is.
Well, I don't know.
Well-
There's the mermaid statue in Copenhagen, which keeps getting its head cut off.
Well, see, that's obviously very offensive. So
Yeah.
basically, if you go down that road, though, every statue is offensive.
Bad news for Bodicea on Westminster Bridge, isn't it?
Exactly.
You've seen that mermaid statue?
I've never been to Copenhagen.
No,
Yeah, I
I
have.
went there when I was
Mate of mine
first
went
time
and
when
the
I was a
head-
kid.
the head
When I
was missing.
Yeah, very very excited to see this legendary, impressive
Yeah,
statue.
yeah.
It's about this big.
It's really small,
It's
isn't
quite
it?
small,
I've
yeah.
heard that.
Yeah.
Stonehenge is a bit like that. You know, when you drive to Stonehenge and you're really looking forward to this, it's a bit like that scene from Spinal Tap. You remember they bring the tiny Stonehenge out? You kind of go, I thought it would be bigger. It's because, I mean, it is quite big, but when you're driving towards it, it looks tiny.
Yeah.
You know.
Any case, the final bit of this story is that...
So they're going to take it down if they covered it up?
They're going to take it down, they're going to move it, even though no one from what I can work out in Exeter is even bothered
No.
or aware or thinking, I mean, and it's outside the university and even students are going, what? What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
who is he?
But
Yeah.
the thing is, they are going to spend a minimum of £25,000 to do this, and I'm sure the taxpayers in Exeter will be very, very happy.
It's unbelievable,
with
isn't
that.
it? It
Why don't
really
they put
is.
like a dress on him and then say he's non-binary?
Well, because you can't be non-binary for the dress, can you? Surely
Yeah,
it would
well,
have
if
to
you-
be
if you
clothing,
like
That makes
clothing
it-
of a
If you've got like a
non-determinate...
bloke's military helmet on and a dress on, that makes you kind
He's
of
on a horse as well.
sexually
He's on a
ambivalent, doesn't
horse.
it?
I forgot to say
so
he's on a horse.
then you wouldn't be offensive to anybody.
Is it a mare? Do we know? Gelding?
I didn't look that close.
Yeah.
But you're right, Don. I've read that story myself, and it is a particularly egregious example of wokery gone
Nobody's
mad.
complaining about this stuff,
No
right?
one's
But
complained
you know,
about it.
wokery is, we could say, I think it's culturally very worrying, and it's something we should stop this year. We should try and stop all this nonsense. But actually, in the vaccine program, it actually got physically dangerous to the population of this country because people who volunteered, old doctors and nurses,
yeah.
and volunteered to come back from retirement to become vaccinators, had to fill in a 21-point questionnaire, and if they couldn't provide documentary evidence that they'd been on a diversity course and understood about racial differences, then they weren't allowed to be vaccinated. So that's wokeism causing physical
problems,
harm to the population.
Yeah.
And to be fair to Boris, which is something I don't often do, he has had a go at the NHS for
He has, and Hancock apparently has told them to stop all of that and to stop that nonsense. Absolutely right. But then, you know, we've got the London mayor who hasn't made it this week, I'm afraid, Sadiq, but he might carry over.
It was tempting.
He might carry over.
I was so tempted.
Because he was
He's
in
always
it
there
last
lurking.
Week. He's always there lurking, and there is one that carries over from last week. I mean, this is a guy who has dedicated himself to renaming London streets, to doing a complete and utter kind of commission on statues. The one that I talked about last year, in fact, is in St Thomas's Hospital over there, is all covered up still. You know, Thomas Guy, the bloke who founded both St Thomas's and Guy's Hospital with a philanthropic grant of the equivalent of millions and millions of pounds to help poor people. He's now not allowed to be seen by most of us, in case he upsets us, because he might have had something to do with the slave trade.
It's got to stop this. It's got to stop. It's insanity. It's got to stop.
That hospital is saving thousands of people's lives.
Yeah.
And, you know, what are you going to do? Just take the hospital down with it? And just, you know.
I think we just get rid of statues full stop. No more statues. I'm sorry, Mike, Kev, no statues.
You know, I was looking forward to a statue as well. Never mind, I guess.
No.
Maybe a painting.
Do you know statues are not art?
Aren't they?
No.
Have you told Picasso
because they have a purpose.
Have you told Picasso?
Right.
No, Picasso made statues which are art, though.
Yeah, but they're not. They weren't commissioned to be statues of
people.
If it's commissioned by a government or a local council, it means it has a purpose, and therefore it is not art.
Is that right?
Right. Okay. It really is a South Bank show now, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
I don't know how I lost control of this show.
I've always disputed that.
It used to be funny, you know. God's sake. Right, now, here's one for you. This is going to be right from left field, because normally it's individuals or organisations or magazines in your case. Today, I'm nominating two anonymous people. I don't know what their names are, but it was a piece in the paper that I read, one of those great pieces where you just read it and laugh out loud. Two burglars decided upon themselves to take on somebody's house in Stoke-on-Trent a week ago, I think it was, on Thursday night. Unfortunately for them, one of them managed to sort of, by accident, call the police while they were in the process of breaking into the house by somehow hitting his phone. I don't know why you would have the police on a speed dial.
Yeah, pre-dial.
But you know, when you've asked dial.
Why would you do that?
But anyway, he rang the police, and so the police then discovered that they were listening in to a burglary in progress, which then allowed them to locate where the phone signal was coming from, send a load of rozzers round to arrest them while they were in the act. And then they also were able to listen to them being arrested because the guy's phone was still on. I mean, you've got to be a special kind of plank to do that. I mean,
this brought to an end their reign of terror, super criminals, master criminals.
Master criminals, yeah, that was the end
Mind
of their terror.
It's a good job the police could spare people to pop round there in between arresting people, having a cup of coffee by a reservoir.
Chasing after joggers.
Disorganised crime.
I mean, just absolutely hopeless. Anyway, but I think once in a while we have to throw some of those.
Yeah, no, that's a good one, actually. There is actually a book called Heroic Failures, which lists a whole...
Yeah, I mean, this is almost sort of Darwin Award time,
absolutely, of really idiotic things that happen to people, but they are funny.
Very funny. Right, so there we are. We've got 9. So all we've got to do is the hard bit now, getting them down to 3. So whose Dawn do you want to pick? I'll let you do the picking first. Do you want to pick his or mine?
I'm going to pick Kev's, I think.
All right, then.
I did that last time.
Okay, so your 3 were?
To remind you, Angela Merkel for calling it the British virus.
That's good.
Nancy Pelosi for potentially inciting violence all across America with the impeachment. And finally, the writer of Doctor Who.
The Daleks.
And possibly the man who pretended that Daleks represented the Nazis.
Yes.
Russell T Davies in a very different context for saying that only gay actors can play gay characters.
I'm so tempted to go for
presumably,
the Daleks. Russell T Davies.
By the way, presumably he must also now believe that only Daleks can play Daleks.
Well, exactly.
Well, only Time Lords can play Time Lords.
Yeah,
it's mad.
Right.
It's mad.
No, Kev, I'm sorry, I'm going to let you off this one. I'm going to go for Angela Merkel.
Yeah, I think that's a very good choice.
Yeah,
very good choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kevin, you pick mine. Twitter, the Derbyshire Police, and the hapless burglars.
I love the hapless burglars, but I just don't think we can have them in the top three. Two people we can't even name.
I think that's right.
It's a great story.
I think that's
right. With all due respect for highly commended Derbyshire police, who are never far from the Plank of the Week list. They really are a bunch, that lot. I don't know who runs the Derbyshire Police, but it's a WPC woke.
The Keystone Cops.
Yeah, the Keystone Cops. The Keystone Cops of wokery. But I'm going to go for Twitter for their sinister political activity in censoring people they don't agree with.
Yes, and then complaining when Uganda censors them, which really is what makes it for me. So that's good. So we got Twitter, we got Angela Merkel. Dawn, tell us your three.
Okay, my three were Madonna for hypocrisy jetting around the world when we're all in lockdown, but saying we're all in this together. Cosmopolitan magazine for worshipping at the cult of obesity, which is killing people. And the councillors in Exeter for deciding that statues shouldn't have genders, full stop.
I think it's got to be Madonna. I think it's got to be the Material Girl.
Yep.
Because that is absolutely
ridiculous.
I like the councillors too. I mean, we could agree and put the councillors in fourth place if you like. And,
they're all mine. I don't mind.
But I think Madonna is absolutely outrageous. Not least because, I mean, on a serious point, I mean, she could have actually spread an awful lot of COVID around the world.
Well, yeah,
when hardly anybody's going anywhere.
I mean, the thing is, she did go to fairly relatively poor countries in Africa, Malawi and Kenya. So, I mean,
where they don't have it much.
Well, they don't have it much.
Gets
at
all
the
their
moment.
kids from Malawi.
Yeah.
No, that's Angela.
No, Madonna goes to Malawi for it as well.
Yeah, she's got two little girls from there. And I think, to be fair, she was visiting one of the hospitals she set up out there.
Yeah.
But, however,
still,
these are countries that don't have great medical facilities.
No one likes a do-gooder.
No,
and it's just the lecturing. It's that bath. Remember the bath and the rose petals. I'm still.
Also, you just know that
therapy.
there's so much about it which is to do with her being in the public eye.
Her entire career has been a joke. You know, they always go, mistress of reinvention. So she turns up one day, dressed in PVC.
Yeah.
And then the next day she turns up dressed as a cowgirl.
She's not exactly
and
David
goes,
Bowie.
What an amazing
amazing.
She's completely changed her image. Brilliant.
She was in some really bad movies as well. Remember that movie
did
she
you
was in with Sean
Did you
Penn?
get the book, Sex?
The Sex book, no. No, I saw it, but I didn't buy it.
We bought
Shanghai Surprise was one of them.
Shanghai Surprise, one of the worst films ever made. When Sean Penn, for a brief period, went completely and utterly insane.
Yes, yeah.
And married her. Also, one of my favourite scenes, and you must have been in Hollywood at the time when she got married, you remember?
Yeah.
And the helicopters were all sitting, and Phil Ramey, who was a photographer that we all know, was in a helicopter amongst three helicopters, and they came out on the balcony and just got blown back in. Hilarious. Right then, so Madonna, Angela Merkel, and Twitter. What do you reckon?
I mean, personally, I know it's mine, but I do really object to Angela Merkel calling it the British virus. I think it's outrageous.
That is a good one. Yeah, I hadn't heard that. I must admit, that is a good nomination. It's a bit cheeky as well, isn't it? I mean, because...
And she does have a lot to answer for.
And also, it's not just traditionally invoking the old British enemy and trying to besmirch.
Can you imagine if it had been the other way round? Imagine if Boris Johnson had done it.
Yeah, but it's also sucking up. It's also outrageous toadying to the Chinese to get this EU deal
which is where it started.
Yes.
So she doesn't
I would go along with that.
Yeah, I think we're agreed. Yeah.
Okay, and maybe
Madonna second.
Put Twitter in between the two women, I would say.
Okay.
So Twitter second.
Twitter sandwich.
Twitter sandwich. Madonna on one side, Angela Merkel on the other.
You wouldn't want to be Twitter, really, would you?
Poor Twitter.
I mean,
take it all back. I feel sorry for it now.
Punishment enough.
I feel sorry for it now.
So, Angela Merkel. I'm afraid you haven't won much in this country, but you've now won Plank of the Week. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Kevin. We may well see you next week, depending on whether we're all still here. And we'll talk to you then.